everybody, it's Pookie, and today I'm going to be reviewing my February reads. First off, we have Oliver Twist by Charles Dickens, and I was afraid I wasn't going to like this. If you watched my last video, you know why, and I actually did end up enjoying this. Now, it was a lot more dark than I thought it was going to be. It dealt with a lot of social issues in like the 1800s and everything, and I was kind of shocked. Like, some of the characters were just so bad and like inherently evil and morally twisted that I just... Are there people out there like that? Like, they seemed slightly unrealistic, you know? There was just like this huge wall. Like, they had no moral code, like, whatsoever. One of the things I found is that the back is wrong. Now, if I'm wrong, just let me know down in the comments. But I'm not going to say any spoilers, but the back says, abandoned at an early age, Oliver Twist is forced to live in a dark and dismal London workhouse, lorded over by awful Mr. Bumble, who cheats the boys of their meager rations. Okay, number one, he was not abandoned, okay? His mother died as she was giving birth to him. Okay, that's not abandoned, he was orphaned, okay? He's forced to live in a dark and dismal London workhouse. The book does not start off in London. That's one thing you gotta know. That's not a spoiler. He starts off like many miles outside of London, where he grows up, and he eventually makes his way to London after he just runs away from the workhouse. So that's not it. And while Mr. Bumble was a big part in his young life, it was more than just him. It was all the people in charge. You know, all those like court-like people. I forgot what they're called. But, yeah, Mr. Bumble wasn't the one really calling the shots. Desperate determined Oliver makes escape, but what he discovers is the harsh streets of London underworld makes the workhouse look like a picnic. No, it didn't. Penniless and alone, he's lured into a world of crime by the wily Fagin, the nefarious mastermind of a gang of pint-sized pickpockets. That's half true, and I won't tell you which half is true because that would be a spoiler. But one of the things I really liked about this book is the fact that Charles Dickens took an extremely sarcastic narrative tone in this book. He'll just, like, the chapter titles themselves and then some of his descriptions, he'll purposely describe something the opposite as how it happens, but it's really obvious that that's the opposite of how it's going on. Like, one of the chapter titles is like, showing how very fond of Oliver Twist, the merry old Jew, and Miss Nancy were. Okay? This is the beginning of the book. There's no happy stuff here. I'm just gonna say that. Nothing's happy. And that Jew was not Mary. Mary was Mary. I gotta cut that out. As I said earlier, it deals with a lot of social injustices from the 1800s and a lot of the poor people's mindsets and the wealthy's mindset. Now, the wealthy's mindset was all like goody two-shoes people in here, so we didn't really get a fair analysis of that. But one of the things I didn't expect was that most of the book, maybe not most of the book, at least half the book is not actually in Oliver's perspective. We get the point of view of the rich people in the book, we get some people who help Oliver, we get their point of view, and then we get some like point of view of some random people, and then we also get the point of view of the people from the workhouse who take care of Oliver, and then also from Fagin, who's a bad guy in this book. One of the problems with this book is that Oliver Twist was not relatable at all. The only thing that was kind of like his lure is that he's a poor little orphan boy. And he didn't really have much of a personality. He was just, as one of the characters described him, very green. He was very innocent. And that just like plays out through the entire book as his best trait. But it's also his only trait. That he's innocent and sweet. Especially with all that he's been through, it's really unbelievable that he had no negative traits whatsoever. Everybody's got negative traits. Nobody's perfect. So that's really all the bad things I can say about this book, except for the fact that it was sort of predictable in parts and there was a lot of coincidences. I wish my life had that many coincidences. He's got a lot of coincidences in this book. It was a good read overall. I gave it 3 out of 5 stars only because I predicted some things that were going to happen, but the ending was still a semi-shock to me, so it's all good. Next we have my historical read, which was The Zookeeper's Wife. And as you guys know, I was really looking forward to this book. This book is about Antonia Zabinski? I think it's Zabinski. That's how it looks, but I don't know how it's pronounced. So we're just going to say Zabinski. This takes place in World War II in the Warsaw Zoo in Poland. And Warsaw is the capital of Poland. And this is about her saving people from the Warsaw Ghetto, taking them to the zoo, hiding them, feeding them until they can find a chance to escape. And that was often the work of her husband Jan, who was part of the underground. And Antonia and Jan's lives were kind of separate during this time because Jan would go off and be with the underground and do a lot of dangerous work that she didn't really know about, while she had to keep her guests hidden away from German soldiers who often were at the zoo. Now, the story sort of fell flat for me, and I think that's mainly because it didn't really read like a narrative like I expected it to. See, it says a war story. It says story, but it felt more like an infomercial with lots of text dumps, you know, like lots of factual dumps, or like she would go on tangents about things that were not necessary. There's literally an entire page in here talking about bugs. I really don't need to know about bugs, and I don't really care about bugs that much, you know? I mean, they're important to the environment and everything, but it was about this guy categorizing bugs, and now I'm going on a tangent about bugs. See? She's a bad influence on me. But, it had narrative parts thrown in here and there, mainly Antonia, because she's the one who the author got all the notes from. She went through her diaries and her journals, and that's where all the narrative parts from this book come from. But it was really one-sided because it was all from Antonia's point of view, and so Antonia comes across as this really perfect person, and nobody's perfect. Jan's view was also one-sided, especially when he started going into the underground. He was only shown in one light when he should have been shown in the other one as well, and that was really a letdown for me. Anyways, I'm still interested in watching the movie, but I only gave this 2 out of 5 stars, and I gave it 2 out of 5 stars because I liked the story itself. I just really didn't like the writing style. Now we have my series read, which was Hard Contact by Karen Travis, which is the first book in the Republic Commando series. I was disappointed with this book. I was so sad. This book was going to be amazing in my mind, but then it just didn't do it. It talked a lot about commandos, and I feel like I know so much more, but the characters would say things and do things that did not feel realistic. It was just like info dumping. It's like the author was trying to let you know that she spent a lot of time on Wikipedia and that she knows a lot about Star Wars. And I felt like she was trying too hard to push information forward, you know, instead of like letting it naturally arise in situations and the context being right. Another thing is that one of the main characters has had, I won't give any spoilers, but has had a big problem for the entire life. And that problem is solved like that within a few days without hardly any strife, and it seemed really like anticlimactic because it's complained about, it's talked about, mulled over many times in this story, and then it's just solved so quickly. Another thing is that the bonds between these characters were like forged with an anvil and a giant mallet thing, okay? It's stated multiple times in this book that fighting really bonds people. Other than that, they hardly spend any time together. This book itself spans about like 2 weeks, but then all of a sudden at the end of the book, the characters just have to be with one another. It's like they are going to miss each other so much, even though they really only just met, and they didn't really have a whole bunch of common, and they were nice to one another, and they sort of helped each other out, and they were in battle together, but I don't know, there wasn't really any connection other than that, but everyone was just like so emotionally attached to each other during this book. I spent, how long with them? 292 pages with them, but I really didn't feel like I knew them, you know? The last thing is that the ending was really unsatisfying, and I'm not a good judge about that because the ending actually might have been a good setup for the next book, but I'm not going to read the next book because I really don't care much about these characters. I loved the facts about the commandos, but that was really it for this book. I'm going to be going ahead and giving this 2 out of 3 stars, and I might have given it 1, but I don't know. Some of the dialogue was really good, and some of the raw emotions were there. Like, they would say things, and I would get embarrassed for them because it was like, ugh. And there was a few, like, relatable parts, but that's pretty much it with this book.
When you try your best, but you don't succeed.
Last off, we have the book from my fun section, which was Eds Dancer by Bryan Sanderson. Now, as you guys know from my last video, I had my reservations about this book. I didn't know if it was going to be important to the series, if I should just skip it. I didn't know if Lift was going to be crude in this book. But I love this book, and I'm so glad I got it. This takes place after Words of Radiance, which is number 2 in the Starlight Archives. And she only had one viewpoint in the last book. So this pretty much states immediately what happened after. She gets tired of palace life and she ends up leaving to a nearby town where Darkness is supposed to be. And Darkness, if you don't know, is a character. She calls him that. That's not really his name. I loved the details in this book. For such a short book, it had a pretty good amount of details. It didn't have too many side characters, but the ones that it did have felt real, you know, and I'm really glad he explored the people in this book because it's a new town, new society, and apparently they're not going to have a lot of in-book time in the rest of his series. So it was really interesting to see how they like catalog data and everything. And if you've read this book, you'll understand that, but I don't want to give too many spoilers away. Thankfully this book was not crude, so I can let my siblings read it now. And Lift, she grows in this book, but she doesn't change. And that's not really a spoiler because that could mean a whole bunch of different things. One thing I really enjoyed about this book is the pancakes. And I can't get too much into it because I'm not giving a spoiler review, but I want to make the pancakes now. And if you guys want to see me make the pancakes, go ahead and let me know down in the comments below, and I will make them on camera instead of off camera like I'm probably going to do. But if enough of you say you guys want to see me do it, then I'll go ahead and shoot it and we can make them together. But anyways, I actually loved the ending to this book because the beginning like wasn't full of like many surprising details or anything, but the ending was mind-blowing, you know what I mean? And one thing that Bryan Sanderson did is that he knew there's a younger audience and he stated things that might be inappropriate if he stated them full out, but he talked about things in a way that only people who actually knew what he was talking about would understand. And I realize that makes no sense whatsoever. I'm gonna go ahead and just like read one part of it. She stopped right inside the trees, standing on a pathway that someone had cut down and kept maintained. She looked northward, towards Azure. I don't really know how to pronounce it. Is this about what happened to you? Wendell asked. I don't know a lot about humans, but I believe it was natural, disconcerting though it might appear. You aren't wounded. Okay, so if you don't know Lift, she asked this woman who grants wishes to make it so she doesn't get old. And so she believes she stopped growing at the age of 10, and so some of you will understand, some of you won't. The character growth is adorable. Lift actually grows on me because I didn't really like her character, but now I'm starting to like her character more. And I'm excited to see her in the books going forward interacting with my favorite characters, especially since she is going to be like a bigger part of the story from now on. I went ahead and I gave this book 4 out of 5 stars. I would have given it 5 stars, but Lift isn't like my favorite of characters, and the book was slightly juvenile, but again, you had to expect that because it's Lift and she's pretty immature. I was going to go ahead and put this in a video in of itself, but I realized it wouldn't have been that long a video, so I'm just going to tack it on to this one, which is my TBR for February. Now, for my classical, I went ahead and I ordered 80 Days Around the World, but it hasn't arrived yet, so I don't have a physical book right now, but I'm going to be reading it. So maybe I can make like a picture up here, somewhere, here. I have 0 editing skills, so if that happens, Yay! For my historical read for next month, I went ahead and picked up Below Stairs, which is supposed to be an autobiography by Margaret Powell of her life in service in the 1900s. Now, I don't really know anything about this, and on the cover it says, anyone who enjoyed Downtown Abbey or Upstairs, Downstairs will relish this feisty memoir. And I have no idea what either of those two things are. I should probably look them up. But, I don't know, there's always something interesting about hearing the servant side of things, you know? So I'm interested to see where this goes. For my series read, I went ahead and picked up Skyward by Brandon Sanderson, and I'm really excited about this because the only Brandon Sandersons I've read are the Stormlight Archives, well, most of them, and this one's smaller, but not like too small. Has he written any small books? I don't know, I'll have to look into that. But I'm really liking this cover. Isn't it beautiful? It's purple, and if you can't tell, I really like purple. And her eyes are purple too, which is kind of weird. People don't usually have purple eyes, but maybe it's just like aesthetically pleasing for the cover, or maybe she really does have purple eyes. Questions will be answered. Skyward is about these people who are at war with this alien species, and the highest rank you can have is to be a pilot. And apparently her father was called a coward as a pilot, and she really wants to be a pilot, and so she's struggling with what people say about her and what she is. So that's all I know about this book, and that the back says defiance is survival. I don't know if you can see that, but the back is almost as pretty as the front. So I really like that. Oh, and the inside's purple too. And they've got maps. I love it when books do this. Anyways, I'm looking forward to reading this, and I will definitely do something. Read it. I don't know. Okay, for my fun reads, I don't know why, but I ended up picking up 2 books. And one of them I don't remember picking up, and that is The Secret Zoo. Now, this is a mid-grade book, but lower mid-grade. I'm pretty sure it's like 4th or 5th grade. And I know nothing about it, except that these kids find some secret magical place in a zoo. So, I don't know, it looks cute. I've heard some bad things about it, but then I've heard some good things about it. People just saying that it's not a good story, like, at all, and then people raving that, like, they read it to a full classroom of kids and every single one of them liked it. So, I don't know. Maybe if it's good, I can recommend it to my little brothers and sisters, but I don't know. It seems legit. There's a kid riding a penguin. I mean, how better can you get? Penguins, right? I don't know. It's pretty short, and I thought it would be a good quick read, and if not, if I don't like it, then well, I guess I'm not a good judge because I'm not a little kid. I don't know, even though it is a younger book, I'm still expecting it to be okay, you know? And just because it is a younger book doesn't mean older people can't read it. I know there's a lot of people out there who like, if you reach a certain age, you shouldn't read lower books, but I'm pretty sure one of Einstein's quotes is to read fairy tales. Something about fairy tales. I should look that up. I know it's out there. But I'm definitely only reading this book for my siblings. Wink, wink. Totally socially acceptable. Wink. The last book I got is Nevermore, and I literally just got this book, and the cover is hilarious. Okay, number one, it's really pretty, okay? And then there's a giant cat in the building, okay? And that girl's hair is all over the place, and I love her umbrella. I don't know why I love her umbrella, just her particular umbrella is adorable. And I really know nothing about it, so I have no idea why I picked it up, because usually I look into books before I get them. I don't know, some kid's got an eye patch, so it's gotta be cool. Okay, I just looked at the back, and that guy's got great hair. Do you see that guy's hair? I hope you can see his hair. Okay, let's see what the book is about, because I have no idea. Born on Evertide. Don't know what that is. The unlucky day for any child to be born. Morgan is blamed for all the local misfortunes, from hailstone to heart attacks. That's sad. And worst of all, the curse dooms her to die at midnight on her 11th birthday. But as Morgan awaits her fates, a strange and remarkable man named Juniper North appears, chased by black smoke hounds and shadowy hunters on horseback. You whisk her away into the safety of a secret magical city called Nevermore. Okay, I'm already hooked. It sounds good. So I can't wait for it. The cover's beautiful, and I'll let you guys know what I think. Okay guys, that's all I have for you guys today. I'll be going ahead and reviewing the books I did read in Goodreads, and I'll also be reviewing it on my blog. My blog is still in the experimental stage, so if you want to, you can go ahead and check that out, and you can go ahead and leave in the comments on my blog if you have any suggestions on how to make my vlog better. But until then, I'll see you guys later. Stay safe and eat donuts.